Hey everyone, thanks so much for being here today. My name is Unique Branford and I'm the founder and executive director of Help a Girl Out. Help a Girl Out is a charitable organization with the goal to end period poverty and menstrual stigma for women and girls in Canada and in developing countries. Today, I'm excited to facilitate the opportunity for men to dive into a conversation that is really important but often gets hushed, ignored, or outright banned from discussion. We are talking about menstruation. Yes, periods. Despite the fact that menstruation is a natural and normal part of life, it is still a topic that many people avoid discussing openly. In society, it is common for code names to be used, boys to be separated from the girls, or conversations to be kept in closets and behind closed doors. This silence has led to a worldwide health and economic crisis, like period poverty, absenteeism, and a lack of proper health care and research for uterine-related issues. Most importantly, and often overlooked, is the role that men play in this reality. Historically, men have been left out of these conversations, which has caused a gap in their knowledge and awareness. This gap has allowed myth and misconceptions to thrive, fueling stigma and shame. Today's discussion is about changing that. By including men in this conversation, we're working to break down barriers that keep menstruation from being talked about openly. We hope that this roundtable will help to shift society's perception, raise awareness, and encourage men to become allies in this conversation. Whether it's advocating for better access to menstrual products, supporting your friends and family, or just talking openly about menstruation, every effort makes a difference. The theme of our roundtable talk is Stigma Ends With Me, because each of us play a role in ending the silence. So let's join our voices and our actions to help make menstruation a topic that is respected and discussed openly, so that we can all live in an equitable world where we are each empowered and supported. Let's get started.
My name is Dr. Vibe. I've hosted and produced over 5,000 online conversations. I'm a two-time Canadian Ethnic Media Association award winner, and I co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers that's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And since 2020, our team has reached out directly and indirectly to over 4,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. And I want to be part of this conversation because when men can help women and understand women better, we're all better. So it's not all about me today. I've got 5 friends here with me, and we're going to spend some time getting to know each one of them, and we're going to dive right into the conversation. So I'm going to start off my end here and introduce yourself, my friend.
My name is Sylvia.
Sylvia, how you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Good. Could you share a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a trades instructor, carpenter, and cabinet maker.
And what brought you to the conversation today?
One of my students actually asked me to come and come in and participate.
Okay, good. Good to meet you. Another new friend we have right beside you?
My name is Lunkulu Basunga. I go by Noom for short. You say you?
Okay.
I'm a film director. Well, I write, produce.
What brought you to this conversation today?
I was raised by 4 powerful Black women. My mother, her sister, my auntie, and my older sister, my side, and then my aunt's daughter. And being around them a lot, so they was able to teach me. They taught me a lot of things, except this. It was always put on the side as a taboo, and then I have to learn on my own, and then going back to them. It was an interesting process.
Well, good to have you here.
Thank you.
Next up, Mr. Backwards hat. What's your name?
My name is David Otieno. I'm originally from Kenya, and I do not really know if I have a hobby, but I love politics. I do everything politics. I talk politics. Yeah.
Where did that love come from?
I honestly don't know. Just growing up, I used to follow a lot of political shows, mostly reading newspapers and listening to radio. And over time, I just became passionate about it.
What motivated you, to join today's conversation?
I got invited by a friend, but again, I have been involved in such a conversation before, being that there's a time I worked with underprivileged kids back home. And one of the biggest things was, especially girls, was their reproductive health. So, and again, my family is right now. Earlier, maybe 10, 15 years ago, it was predominantly men. Right now, we have more women than men in my family. So one way or the other, so things tends to affect me. So I'm happy to be here.
Happy to have you. Thank you so much. Next up, hello, sir.
Hello.
How are you?
Okay.
Good. Your name, please.
Ivan Otieno.
And tell us a little about yourself.
Okay. I'm a fisherman. I'm a procurement clerk. I'm also a carpenter.
Okay. You said fisherman first. Why fisherman first?
Because from my lineage, we are fishermen. So keeping to the roots, I am a fisherman first.
What motivated you to come to the conversation today?
I received an invite from a friend, and I thought for it for a minute, and I was like, okay, what really do I know about this?
Oh.
And I realized I'm actually quite ignorant. So I said, okay, let me attend this roundtable, get different perspective, learn something. So that's what motivated me to be here.
Well, good. Thank you for coming, fisherman.
Thank you.
All right. Last but not least, your name, sir.
My name is Abbas. I come from Kenya, Nairobi.
Okay. And before we started recording, you've only been in Canada for how many months?
For about 9 months now.
What motivated you to join the conversation today?
So the biggest motivation is that I have 3 sisters and my mom as well. So those are 4 women in my family that I live with. And, family tree as well, it's dominated by women at the moment. I come back from a country where period poverty is a big issue. Is a big issue, a very big issue, and something that is not discussed openly at all. Whereby, so based on there, I've done a few projects whereby we've gone to give charity drives, and when I went for those charity drives to some of the rural areas that I visited, there were a bit of this conversation brought up, but they were pushed out. When one of our colleagues at that time was going through her menstruation cycle, and she went to the bathroom and she pulled out a packet of pads, and one of the girls who was in the next bathroom saw her with the packet of pads and was like, wow, what is that?
Wow.
They didn't even know how it looked.
Okay.
And that's the time that it got me thinking, and I'm like, this is something so common. Like, we walk into a supermarket, we would see it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they didn't even know what it was. They didn't even know it's something like that existed.
A little bit of explanation what menstruation is. It refers to the monthly shedding of the uterine lining. While the menstrual cycle encompasses the entire 28-day process, including the period. So just for general knowledge of everybody. I want to ask any of you, when was the first time you were introduced to this conversation around menstruation? And who educated you? And what did they tell you?
Okay, to the first time I got introduced to menstruation was when I was in primary school. The education system allowed us at a certain time to be taught about reproduction. But again, it is at the most basic levels where you're taught that at some point in your age, this happens, and then this happens, and then you bleed. But again, it's gas. But even as you're taught that, you have to take into consideration that it's not just the fact that it is basic. If this ever happened to a girl that you knew, there's a chance that she would not only be ashamed, you are likely to be part of the problem, in that you, with your little knowledge, you're likely to take it as a dirty process. It's not just her feeling ashamed, it's the fact that even those around her will most likely bully her. Of course, we were 11, 12 years old, and being a teenager, Jesus Christ, comes with a lot of baggage. I'm sure all of us look back at a time when you were 12 or 13 and some of the things you said to someone or the things you did, and you cringe and like, what was that? What was I telling? Yeah. So that was most likely I was in primary school, and we could see the fact that when a girl was going through that cycle, she would not come to school. And again, being that the topic is period poverty, when they were going through that process, she would raise her hand up and the teacher would point at her to give an answer. And the culture where we were is when you're giving an answer, you have to stand up. And when she stands up and you are sitting behind her and you see the discharge in her clothes, she hasn't even realized at that time. Yeah. So you can imagine that the kind of conversations people are having behind her while she's not aware of what is happening to her, to herself, her own body. And after that, the environment kind of just turns hostile towards her. And she's likely not to come back to school tomorrow. One, because she feels ashamed. Two, because most likely she can't afford tampons or yeah. So she'd rather just stay home till that process is entirely done. Then she can come back to school. Yeah. So yeah, that was the first time I got introduced to that, and then growing into adulthood, going through college, you experience, you talk to people, you hear certain stuff, and like they say, you live and you learn.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Anyone else? I saw one or two other people grabbing for the microphone. Like, when were you first introduced to this conversation, and who introduced it to you?
So, firstly, I was introduced in school. So obviously, it's the normal process as he said, in biology, you're taught about menstruation, but it's very vague. It's more of the science bit of it. So I would say, I don't know the exact date and what age I was in, but I remember the conversation that I had. So this conversation was with my mom. So she had me sit down and she's like, I want to speak to you about something that's very important. So this is the time of about when my sisters were turning about 9 years old. One of my sisters. So she's like, your sister's going to go through, is going to now start going through a very difficult process every month. Okay? That is very natural and happens to every woman. I myself go through it every month. You just don't realize because with over time and experience, I've learned how to control it. So I'm like point blank and I'm like, Mom, what are you talking about? Is she sick? She's like, no. She's like, I'm sure you've heard about menstruation. I was like, yeah, I learned it in school. It's when a woman bleeds, when the eggs are, over and they need to be discharged. She's like, yeah, but there's more to it. Like, what do you mean? Like, it's just blood. How bad could it be? I've donated blood. I mean, it's painful. It's not that bad. So she's like, no. She's like, this is why I'm having this conversation with you, because you're going to see a lot of change in your sister. You're going to see a lot of mood swings. You're going to see a lot of protectiveness. Or you might find her pushing you away from her. And she's like, this conversation is just to equip you that you're going to start seeing these changes. So don't be too shocked. Don't react to them. And honestly, when my sister was going through her first cycle, I saw that change and I was equipped for it, because in my head, I already thought that, okay, this is the time. And I was like, Mom, is this the time? She's like, stop being inquisitive. You will realize yourself. That's why I would say it's important for you to educate someone. You don't need to go in depth, but just tell someone of what they're expecting for what the woman's going to go through. That you're going to find these changes and you should be okay with it and adjust yourself to it at that time. For you as a man also not to take it personally.
Excellent. Anyone else want to add? The first time you were introduced to the conversation, anyone else want to add?
Yeah, so for me, the way I was first introduced to menstruation is very subconsciously. I have a sister who is 2 years younger than me. So growing up, we used to share a bed. Then at a certain age, I was told, hey, you will no longer share the bed. You will be sleeping on the couch. I was like, why? No, I was just told that is the rule from now on. That is very subconscious. You are not conscious of what is going on, okay? That is the first time. The second time is through school, the way David has said and Abbas has said. But even in school, there was also a subconscious way on how I was introduced to menstruation. One time, our class teacher comes and he says, we have some guests here who want to speak only to the girls. So boys, can you move out of the class? Go play out for like an hour. We will call you back. So that is how I would say I was introduced to menstruation. Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay. So just one of the wonderful things I want us to go a little bit deeper in is I can recognize here we all come from different cultural backgrounds. And you've shared some stories already on this topic from a cultural sense. I'd like to go a little bit deeper in saying, how does each one of your cultures view periods?
I can go first. Well, I'm Portuguese. Born, I came here when I was 7. I ended up going back when I was in my mid-20s. I stayed there about 4 years. So I've kind of been in and out of Canada a few times. I didn't notice stigma, but there's also no education about it. There's no positive talk. There's no negative talk. There's no talk at all about it. It's just never addressed. You might see the occasional commercial. Kids would make more fun of it. I remember, like you said, it was, and you also said that. I do remember that in high school, kids would make fun of the girls when they're going through there. So a lot more than I did notice back home. I didn't see that there. So that's my experience from that.
Who'd like to add?
What I can say is that back from where I come from, I'll refer to that several times. I'm new in Canada, so every other point I have to go back to where I come from. So
sure,
sex, like conversations around sex, menstruation, and any other thing about reproduction is a taboo topic. It is just something that is never talked about. Personally, I have never talked to my father about anything sex-related, reproductive. My mom, I don't know, if she even tried, I would just stand up and leave. And I'm also sure she wouldn't even try. It's something we can't even attempt. So being a girl growing up at, let me just say 11, 12, when that process maybe kicks off, I feel it's like you're groping your way in the dark. You're trying to learn or like go through these experiences most of the time on your own, or maybe even if you have knowledge, it is a basic knowledge from what you get from school. And again, another thing is, you would not want to be a girl 12 years old or 11 years old among your peers, and that process kicks off right at, they will make your life miserable. The way they'll talk to you, the way they might make fun of you. Some of them may not really make fun of you, but you just feel you're ostracized. You're kind of like an outcast during that process. So yeah, it can be very difficult for them. Again, not a girl. I haven't really experienced that, but again, I can assure you, growing up among girls, and whenever such processes would happen when they are around us, you'd see how maybe we would talk, maybe how we would relate to them, and it is not easy.
All right, anyone else want to share? How does your culture deal with periods, menstrual?
So coming from, there are two aspects of culture. There's the culture of the country that I'm born in, that is Kenya, and then there's the culture of the family that I live in. There's a difference. So I come from a very Muslim cultured family. And obviously I have a Kenyan background where I've lived most of my life. So I'll touch bases on both sides.
Sure.
Okay. So in terms of the Kenyan culture, this is a topic as my friend here mentioned. It's a very taboo topic. These conversations do not happen at all. It's very hidden and put a lot of shame to a lot of women. And the reaction of, like I remember during school, the reaction of how a teacher's reaction would be when a circumstances of when a girl has some discharge that she didn't realize about, how they would react to it puts more of shame to the girl. And again, it's overall that there's no education and there's no openness. There's no willingness to accept that this is a natural cause. Nor me, nor you have control over. It's natural. And every woman has to go through it, whether you like it or not. Whereby I feel that it needs to be accepted in the communities. Because we are down how many generations? Today we're in 2024. There have been several of generations passed through us. Until today, it's not been accepted even in one community. Because if it was, we wouldn't be having this conversation today. Everyone would be educated. Everyone would be discussing about this. Right? And when it comes to the Muslim culture, from the culture I was raised with, the family I was in, my grandfather always discussed these things with me as well. Because he was very open. And it was accepted because we would cover our women in our family. And that's something that you'll find in every Muslim household. That we make sure we protect the women in our family. That's goal number one. And when it comes to protecting, is you need to know what it takes to protect them. Because it's not only about the physical protection, it's about the emotional protection as well. Right? Because again, it's like earlier on you mentioned everything falls down to the foundation and the upbringing. And this was something that was not openly discussed as in on the table. As such, it still had some kind of taboo onto it, but it was yet discussed. It was still a topic that when we would sit with my granddad and my brother, he would tell us about it. He would tell us the experiences. He would tell us that these are natural things, that every woman go through it. And the main thing what he tried to put across to us was never ever make a woman ashamed of it, because you tomorrow are going to have a sister, or you're going to have a daughter, or you're going to have a wife. So it's very simple that what you do to someone, be ready to get it back. When we shame people for a natural cause that your own family member go through, your own mother who brought you into this world had to go through it for you to be brought here. Your own sister is going to go through it. In the future, when you have children, they're going to go through it too as well. So it's something that is really, really looked down upon through years and years of passing down lineages. And now I think it's the time that the change needs to come. So for you to be brought to this world, this process was one of the most important processes. And we need to accept it on a daily basis. Yes, we're not supposed to speak of it in terms of being public and joking around with it. Because obviously for a woman, there's the respect and sense of a woman that we need to hold. It's the same way that we need to open out and give education not only to the men, but also to the women.
Yep.
Of this natural process that is taking place on a daily basis, that is not only with humans, but animals as well.
I love what you said about how we cannot be here without that process. But that's so true.
It's the truth.
None of us would be here without that. and yet we discriminate about it, and which is craziest thing to think.
Why are men not talking about this, or why are ladies not wanting to discuss this with us? Do you have any thoughts on that? I think it came up a little bit earlier, but do you have any thoughts on, why do people think, are so afraid to discuss periods with us guys?
That could be because, I don't know, men in general are to some extent not even interested in such conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I don't know, there's a time back when someone said, and this is entirely different, that politicians in certain places did not care about the effects of, let's say, HIV/AIDS until someone in their families or some of their friends or someone they knew was infected. So it had to hit you from a personal point for you to actually gain interest to have such conversations. So for there to be that environment, men will have to start getting interested in discussing such topics.
And I feel it's important because, we are men. We love women.
Yeah.
Bingo, right there. We love women. Right there. You said a key word, important.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Think about it. You just said the important. If it wasn't, you wouldn't care. It's important. We don't see it as an important thing. What do you mean? What would you even think about it? Just close my eyes and think. Why would I leave my house, go to my friend's house, and then hear about period? It's not important to me.
It doesn't affect you.
It doesn't affect me at all. At all. Until it becomes important, then I'm like, wait.
But again, you think it doesn't affect you.
Mm-hmm.
And that is because of ignorance.
That's right.
And that is the biggest problem, which I wanted to mention, is ignorance.
That's right. Ignorance. Yeah. Not knowing.
Us humans are very ignorant.
That's correct.
Well, let's talk about men.
No, but generally speaking,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to us men, especially when it comes to this topic,
Yeah.
we are very ignorant because it is very important for us to know about this, as you, being a man, came out of your mom, who is a woman.
That's it. None of us are here without the grace of your mother.
Exactly.
That's it. Period. There's no argument there.
Your mother is going through the same process that you are ashamed of talking, and you are here because of her and because of that process.
Yeah. It's poor education. It's not pushing this.
No, as much as it's poor education, it's also ignorance.
Absolutely.
Whereby ignorance, honestly speaking, after hearing everyone's thoughts, the biggest factor of why today there is so much taboo on this topic is ignorance. Ignorance from us men, ignorance from the women themselves as well,
Absolutely.
ignorance from the society, from the cultures, from the religion, from the work environments that we have. We need to stop being ignorant.
Earlier on, you had mentioned women also. Do you feel it also should be a two-way street?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, it has to be a two-way street, because if women themselves do not acknowledge what they're going through as being a natural process, you do not expect a man to accept it.
Yeah, not to cut you, brother, but it's true, because it's once again, it's I don't want to say common sense, but it's just how life's supposed to be. If I don't know what you are feeling, and if you don't, I don't know what you're feeling.
Yeah.
If you don't tell me, So if your wife, your sister are going through something, they have to understand how important it is to communicate with my brother, to communicate with my husband. They have to open up to you. So it's a fine line in between where not only they have to understand how important is the communication side of it, for you to understand because you're not a woman, but it's also important for you as a man to be wise enough, create the environment for them to open up about it. That also is another ball game, because the community, the environment, the beautiful thing that you have to create, but most of us don't even have that. And that, you know what I mean? And there's no really no one to blame, by ourselves. Do you get what I'm saying? It's very important for us to take accountability of like, okay, all right, I know it's not happening on my body, but did I have a great relationship with this woman? And I'm talking about anybody, mother, daughter, husband, wife, sister, all of that. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's the very key part that we miss.
I get a sense here, you're saying we got to unlock the narrative or turn away the narrative. You know, so I think you're all saying that it's everyone's responsibility, not just men, not just women. It's everyone's responsibility.
It's everyone's responsibility, and this is not something that is based on what age you are or how old you are. I mean, a young boy of 8 years old should know what this is.
You're amazing, Mark.
And my mom, obviously, yes.
It leads me to this conversation piece. Your mother taught you about it. Any other people on the couch? Did any relative or close friend has talked to you about this?
Never. It's really never.
This is taboo.
It's a taboo topic.
Taboo.
Like I said earlier, the idea that me and my mom. Let me just give you an example. There's one point when there was the issue of I don't know. There's this type of cancer that was had become slightly prevalent in Kenya with women. It was cervical cancer.
Right.
So women were actively being encouraged to go for, I don't know, HPV test or something like that to go. And I went to some place. I just bumped when they were talking about that thing, and I was like, well, I think my mom and my sister would benefit from this. And when I went home and she's there, and how I'm going to introduce this topic, because it involves talking about cervix and any reproductive, and I kind of just texted my sister, but even texting my sister who is older than me and giving her like the exact point. So it was like I had to just let it go around and round, and I couldn't muster the courage to just simply tell, okay, you guys need to go for the examination of your like cervix and to determine whether you have this and that. So you can imagine then the environment where they have to put me down, like they sit down with me to discuss such with me. It is non-existent, and honestly, I wouldn't even expect it. It won't happen.
No, to add on to it, it's a very awkward conversation. To be honest, it's a very awkward conversation, because when I was having this conversation, the kind of thoughts that were going into my head was like, it's not about the conversation. It's just that I'm discussing this with my mom. It's the kind of way that we find it disrespectful
And weird.
The reason why it's because we find it disrespectful, weird, is all because we find something that we can't be discussing with someone who we respect.
Yeah, exactly.
But that needs to change. And that's when we get these thoughts that, oh my God, I shouldn't be having this conversation with my mom. So both for parents and for a child, for this dialogue to be open, needs to come from the parent, I believe. And why I say that is because of how you create your atmosphere in discussing with your child or your brother or your sister on any topic. And again, it all comes back to upbringing. Because if you are brought in a household where you can communicate freely with your parents, so it's the same question a parent has to ask himself. Would you prefer your son or your daughter to go and ask a third person of what menstruational cycle is?
So you are the perfect example of why parents need to talk at home. You speak about it perfectly with no problems, no hesitations. Why? Because you've been brought up like that. And you make the perfect point. This has to happen. It has to start in the home, it has to start from the father, from the mother, at a young age, bringing them up. Because remember, the first 7 years is very crucial. We can get our kids to normalize it. The next generation is going to just accept it. We could accept everything. It's just we're not normalizing it at the family level, like you said.
I would like to point out something. It's a bit to poke our minds rather. Basunga spoke of the point of trigger, like menstruation has to become important for you to realize it. Abbas is saying that this awareness needs to start at a very early age, right? So there's a bit of conflict there. To be honest, the point of triggers for men, most of us, is when we come to realize when menstruation is important is when we have girlfriends. That is the point of trigger. Despite the fact that we might have had a little bit of knowledge prior, like the basic knowledge, like what Abbas is saying, being taught when you are still young, despite for us having that knowledge, but really the point of trigger comes when we had girlfriends and your girlfriend tells you, I'm on my menstruation. And you're like, oh, okay. Now things become making sense now. That is the point of trigger. That is when it becomes important. But before that, yes, you have all this knowledge and everything. But really, the way Basunga said, it only becomes important when it hits home now.
And it affects, if you want a better way of handling this situation, my parents are in their 60s. My dad is 71 right now. And again, growing up, I was terrified of my dad. My dad was just a man who spoke little and acted a lot. And being in Africa, we all know that part of those actions would include them seriously whooping you up if you made a mistake. So again, you can't imagine being in such an environment, then talking. So if at all there's going to be change, then it has to just start by us.
Look, I understand and respect your perspectives, all of you, of where you're coming from, because the generation of before and today is way different. When I talk to my mom and I ask her during her times, how's the conversation she was having with her parents? They could not have any conversation. If you're told, sit down. And to touch on what he said, right? That is why I said that it's important for it to come from home. Because when you have that information, when you do get your girlfriend and it becomes important to you, you know how to react to your circumstances. You know how to handle the situation. Because now if you don't know how to handle the situation, you could be like, yuck, I don't want you anymore. Because you don't know. You're not educated. But when you're given the education from childhood, yes, it's not important for you at that point. But it's the same way. Today you know the alphabetic order is Y. Was it important for you at that time when you were young? It didn't make a difference whether you knew A, B, C, D or not. Yes, to speak you needed it.
Something tells me you want to respond.
Yeah. Listen. We do have men who have wives and daughters, but these men are still misogynistic, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that yes, we might have this knowledge and everything, but the way Basunga said, it only hits home. The point of trigger where this thing becomes important, it's when it's really involves you now.
Hits home.
It hit home, like, okay. She tells you, I'm on my menstrual. And I'm like, okay. Now I'm bringing that knowledge, all that knowledge, I'm bringing it back now. It's beginning to resonate with me now. That is the point of trigger.
I agree with the point of trigger. But when the trigger is the question. Because the trigger is not when you got your girlfriend. The trigger is when you realize you have a mother.
I'll let you leave with that. We're going to continue on. We could spend the whole conversation on this one. We're going to move a little bit forward. What can men do? What action steps men can do when it comes to this subject? We've sort of gone around, but what are some tangible steps that men can take when it comes to this topic?
Well, I would say we need to start to open up our minds a little bit more, be more accepting, talk to the people that are nearest, because I mean, our loved ones, sisters, mothers, wives, and express that you want to generally understand. You want to know. You want to learn. You want to give them the possibility to talk back to you and not feel like they are not capable of doing it. So if you bring up the topic first, it eases up the conversation to allow you to start. That's what I think we should do.
Other gentlemen, suggestions for the men and those who love them.
If there's going to be change, there has to be one genuine interest in learning more how to help inform or educate more people. Because again, without more people, like more men joining and making this the average topic that people talk about, creating an environment where every other person is comfortable enough to talk about this, then it's just it's going to be like a cycle where it's just ignorance over ignorance over ignorance. That there's not much or meaningful change that is going to happen.
Anyone else?
Other than the awareness, we need to allow access to resources. Resources also is important. The world economies are mostly head by men, and men have they do hold the capital for most of the resources. So aside from awareness and education, we as men should also allow access to resources, because they need things to help them manage the situation.
Anybody else?
I can only speak from personal experience, and then see if that can help somebody else. I would say build and maintain healthy relationship with the opposite gender. That's very important, because even if you have money, even if you do got the resources, it's very important. It's a key. All these things are important. I think the foundation of it all is learn how to build healthy, learn how to maintain a healthy relationship with the opposite gender. Because by doing that, it will require you to communicate better. It will require you to understand them better. It will require you to be open-minded. Build a healthy relationship and move on from there. Because from there, everything will just fall in place like it's supposed to be.
What is our message to our moms, our wives, our partners, our nieces, our sisters?
God bless you for putting up with me.
All right.
Open up to us. Let us in. We can be more understanding. We want to be. Share with us how you feel. Help us understand you better, so we can better ourselves to improve, all our relationships. I mean, if we can't communicate with each other, we don't have a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So opening up to us will help us opening up to you.
Yeah. On this end, I can't. Sometimes I can't read the signs. Just try and communicate. I'll try and pick up what you're trying to say. Just communicate as well. Yeah.
Okay, good stuff.
Someone once said that when we know better, we ought to do better. And now that we know some of this, we would like our sisters, our mothers to help us, open up. When, like you said, when you open up, we have no choice but to reciprocate, open up too, because this will need an all hands on deck. We have to do our part, but for it to actually be productive, for it to lead to a more progressive environment, while we do our part, you too have to do your part. So help us help you. Yeah.
All right.
To the ladies in my life, like all of them. Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
All of them.
Edit.
Oh my God. Down the list. Okay. Okay. Mom, shout out to you. I know you tried your best, so I don't have anything against you. That's one. Sister, I appreciate you. You know what I mean? Always been a good sis. But the most important two people I would say though is my future girlfriend. You're not there yet, but when you do come, just know that I'm educating myself as much as I can. Daughter, don't worry, got you. You know what I mean? Dad got your back. I don't know where my camera is. So, you don't worry about that. Yeah, so Daddy got you, my future daughter, my future girlfriend. Don't worry about it. I'm going to continue educate myself as much as I can to be prepared, and obviously our relationship is going to be amazing enough for you to open up to me, and then us to be in this together. So it's not a you thing, but it's us thing, because we're a team at the end of the day.
All right. My last conversation piece. You already gave your takeaway. What's one thing each one of you is a takeaway from today's conversation?
We have a long way to go, really, because this is a great start on how to openly discuss this. But again, even within this environment, which was people are open, you can tell it still tends to talk about reproductive health, especially men talking about women's reproductive health. And again, it starts with us. If you go somewhere, you find it's a bit tardy or hard to start that, you do your best to create an easy or a less toxic environment where people can open up to you. So that's my takeaway from today.
Next.
Not to run away from it as much, because I still have this unhealthy old school behavior of mine where if it's not helping me to progress in life right now, not putting it up with it. Like I'm just, it's a very selfish way of thinking about it, but I'm taking accountability, saying it's my responsibility, it's my fault, not to, because right now in my brain, before this couch conversation, I always knew it's important. I always knew it's something that what's happening to them, but not to me personally, because me being, I don't have a wife, I don't have a girlfriend, I don't have a daughter, and I don't live with women in my house, just me. So it doesn't hate me like that. It used to hate when I was in a relationship before, but not anymore. So I don't see the value in capturing that information. I want to get caught slipping in the future, right? So they said the better man is the man that's always prepared, and then it's always good to train your mind to be open-minded to any information. That's exactly what happened when I got here. So it's definitely a breath of fresh air. The tools in your toolbox is always going to be important at a certain point. But the smartest thing is to have the tools, than not be in a position where you don't have the tools and now you understand it's important and you're going to be catching back because you don't have it. You know what I mean? One thing I've learned, I'm going to take home from today is the fact that this conversation highlighted that it's important for me to have this tool in my box because it will be important at a certain point in my life. Right? So that's what it is. Thank you, Anikto.
Let's get you.
Again, with all of you guys, I think this is a beautiful start. This is where it should be. Men being able to talk about it, because men becoming fathers and being able to speak to their daughters and being able to speak to other people and re-educate other men not to laugh about a situation that is just natural. We could not be here without it.